Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live edition here on my channel. Today, I have a special presentation for you guys. We're sort of going away from the art techniques and we're focusing on a really important subject today that a lot of artists and art students struggle with, and it's the cost of art school. I myself went to art school in the 1990s at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. And I want to share with you guys strategies that I've developed throughout the years to help students get through this hurdle of high educational costs. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys some strategies to help you alleviate some of these costs. So, for the past 20 years, I've been preparing portfolios, helping students prepare portfolios for art school with really the purpose of students getting a scholarship to go to art school and alleviate some of these costs. So, and one of the things that has come up in the last recent years is the high cost of art school. I mean, a lot of art schools are charging astronomical prices for their tuitions, and it's something that I want to talk about today. I also want to invite you, if you have not subscribed to my channel, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell to receive future notifications. I don't really have a set schedule for my live presentations. I'm sort of, accommodating my schedule as I work, so they're not so consistent right now. But it's important that you hit that button because if you're interested in some of the materials that I'm sharing, you could get the notification and come by and check out some of the live presentations. So that's really important. One of the things that I want to do today is I want to create a forum. A lot of you that are joining are welcome to share your stories about art school. If you were able to get a scholarship or if you have not gone to art school, I want to hear about your comments below. Make sure to share your experiences. You could also comment or ask questions pertaining to this subject. I'm very much interested in sort of getting a feel for the audience and what, if they're college educated or if they're just getting started or if there's a lot of you that are already experienced artists. So that's going to help me a lot sort of gauge, some of the future subjects that I'm going to be choosing for the channel. So that's really important. So let's just go ahead and get started. So one of the things that I've in doing my research, I always do research for all the live presentations. One of the things that I discovered is that the costs of art school are absolutely astronomical. I mean, the average art school today in the United States is about $45,000 after aid. And I want to share with you guys here some graphics that I just downloaded this from Google. This is a graphic from just the Google search query, and for an average school, a really great school such as Savannah College of Art, you're going to be paying about $45,000 after aid. That's what it's described in the Google search, and they have this, in the statistics published. And this is something that it's very shocking to me. I mean, I prepare portfolios. I have an art portfolio preparation program in my school, in my online school. That's what I've been doing for the last 20 years, helping students prepare their portfolios, come up with strategies to, secure a scholarship. And I was just shocked by this number. When I went to art school, my tuition cost was $12,000 a year. This was back in the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s. And that was a lot of money back then. I was able to secure scholarships, and thus I was able to go to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. Nowadays, I can't see how students could afford these tuition costs even after aid. That means that a lot of students are probably just applying to some of these schools, probably with just a basic portfolio or basic grades, and not really a strategy and not really securing scholarships for themselves. So if we go to another famous art school, Rhode Island School of Art and Design, this is about the same. They average around $45,000 after aid, which is pretty staggering. I mean, that means that you're going to have to loan out that money. You're going to have to go into debt. Most likely, you're going to have to loan out the max amount of student aid or student loan available. And one of the things that I've realized, as I have educated students for all these years, and also as a practicing artist, is that When you come out of college, you really do not want any debt. That's one of the most important things. Having debt on your back starting out is really not a good strategy at all. A lot of students also fail to realize that by having all this debt, you're going to have to be forced into taking a job that perhaps you're not happy with, and that's going to affect your art in the long run. So these are strategies and experiences that I'm sharing with you guys because I see a lot of you wanting to pursue an art career and really having a hard time coming up with a strategy, or perhaps not finding the right information. So that's something that I wanted to do today on the live presentation because it's really important. In order for you to practice your art, you really need to have time to do that. Practicing your art takes a considerable amount of time. You have to take the time to learn the skills, to develop a style, and then to promote your own work. So that could take you about 5 years to get started. So it's important not to be in a lot of debt, not going to thousands of dollars in debt. And another thing too is the prospect of a job. The art world is really tough, and it's important to know that when you come out, you're going to have to be an entrepreneur. You're going to have to be entrepreneurial. You're going to have to know, how to promote your work, how to come up with contacts for galleries and collectors and all that good stuff. It's really tough. These are tough positions for an artist to be in, but it's important to just get ahead of the game and understand these things early on. And one of the things one of the strategies that I have with my portfolio students is, or one of the most important solutions that I've created for these students is to create a quality portfolio. So when you are ready to apply to art school, you have the best options to get an institutional scholarship. Now, you may think that I'm not that I'm against going to art school, but that is quite opposite. I'm for art school. I believe art school is a great opportunity. I believe that you make some amazing contacts. You learn so much from the faculty, amazing faculty, and I believe that without any sort of titles, very difficult to get credibility in the art world and in galleries. And if you're applying for institutions such as museums, so I really, really do believe that you should go to art school, but you have to do it on your own terms. You have to save money doing it. It's important to secure scholarships. That would be the first strategy that I would recommend for students. You could do it by creating a quality portfolio. And what does it entail to create a portfolio? Well, the portfolio should be a combination of your own personal style, your interests, and it's important to have technical skills. And to do that, you need to, one of the strategies, and I'm going to use a testimonial here. When I was in high school, I started studying privately with a teacher that taught me painting, drawing, proportions, basic color. And I would go to his studio every Saturday and I would study fundamental skills of drawing and painting. Those works that I've developed in his studio, I used to create other works. I also enrolled in a community college early on while I was in high school. I got a permit from my high school counselor, to allow me to go to night school in community college. And there I started doing figure drawing, figure painting. I started enrolling in art history classes. These are fundamental experiences that shaped the person that I am, the artist that I am. That was really important, and that was very inexpensive. If I grew up in California, I went to Riverside Community College, which is a state school. And at the time, I believe it was something like $100 or $200 a credit. They're cheap, compared to today's costs. And that really helped me a lot. That with the combination of Saturday classes, private classes, allowed me to prepare a portfolio. I started when I was in ninth or 10th grade. And that's usually what I recommend. I usually recommend that students engage in private classes or some sort of structured class for about 2 years. That's about the time that it takes to develop a portfolio. You also want critiques. It's very, very difficult to do to create a portfolio on your own. It's important to have feedback from a professional or an artist, a practicing artist, or a high school teacher, a counselor, somebody that creates artwork, that is involved in the art world somehow, and somebody that has a good eye. That's important. These are key elements to creating a nice portfolio. Now, one of the most important things is to have art fundamentals, meaning that you don't want to do perhaps a theory class or art history class without any sort of basic drawing class. You want to enroll in for perhaps figure drawing class, basic drawing class that's going to teach you light and shade. You're going to have some basic color, and these are things that are going to help you attain the technical skills to be able to work out your portfolio. This is really key. And when you're developing the portfolio, it's you have to continuously keep track of your works, the works that are doing before. So I always recommend students to work on a sketchbook. Years ago, I had a few students that I applied to RISD with sketchbooks, and they were able to get into this prestigious school that has a very, very low acceptance rate, get into these schools with scholarships, almost full scholarships based on a sketchbook. The sketchbook is very powerful, and if you keep it as a journal, you will notice that it will be a very coveted thing for a faculty to look at, because it's almost like an art journal. So you want to maintain record of how you're growing as an artist, and that's what a lot of faculty enjoy looking at. And when they're making a decision to accept students to their institution, they want to make sure that the student has consistency, that they're disciplined. So these are pointers that I'm sharing with you guys. So if you're preparing a portfolio, you're able to key in on these factors. So another great strategy that I've developed for the students is for them to create a consistent vision. That's it. That's so important. So if you're going to do portraits, try to focus on a variety of portraits. Try not to share too much works, too many media. So if you're doing sculpture, try to stick to sculpture, but don't try to share too many, sculpture, installation, photography, video. That's just too confusing for faculty members that are trying to see a pattern of consistency, of discipline. And even though they're not asking for a style to be developed in these portfolios, they are looking for what is the beginning of a style, what will later turn into a style. So that's important to take into account. One of the things that I do in my classes, and that's something that I, for the last 20 years, I've been focusing on taking students, as apprentices, essentially, one-on-one, and helping them little by little develop initially their technical skills. Then we move on to painting skills, drawing and painting skills, and we do fundamentals. And then after that, we start working on a sketchbook that is focused on a specific subject or a specific genre. So that's something that I've done for the last 20 years, and it has been very successful. I've had a lot of students get into the prestigious schools such as RISD, Chicago Art Institute, Cal Arts. So the list goes on. And this is something that, in terms of costs, so you have a school like RISD is $45,000. Now, if you make a comparison between that school and perhaps another school, and I want to share some data with you guys here. This, for example, the Chicago Art Institute, you have here a school that is about $46,000. And if you notice, all these schools, it's in Google, they published the number, and it says after aid, meaning that these schools are not giving a lot of aid, but they do have institutional scholarships based on the excellence of portfolios. And that's a small details a lot of students miss. When you're applying to art school, do not apply with whatever you have. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure to create the best work that you possibly can in order for you to apply to these institutions. Do not apply to just one institution, apply to several institutions. You're shopping for the best deal possible so you're able to get the best scholarship and you don't have to come out of school with lots of debt. So that's really important. Now, I want to share with you guys here an Ivy League school cost. For example, University of Pennsylvania. My school had a joint program with University of Pennsylvania. And if you notice here, the cost after aid is much, much less, but the acceptance rate is actually lower. So that means that they're only accepting about, a small percentile of the population of students, and that's because they're awarding merit. That means that a lot of students are getting scholarships, institutional scholarships, grants, and even though you're going to a very expensive school, those schools are helping their student population absorb some of those costs, and it's because they're interested in the top students. So if you use this same approach, the same strategy for art school by submitting your portfolio, your excellent portfolio, you will be very successful in acquiring a scholarship. Perhaps I've had students and just to give you an average, I've had students that have have received a 50% scholarship from schools such as Pennsylvania Academy, Savannah College, RISD. There's other students that have received up to 75%. And if you are able to secure yourself a scholarship for 4 years, 75% of that cost, I mean, you're running like a bandit. I mean, you've saved yourself a lot of money. You've just sort of started, your career from the get go. I mean, that's really the key to running this type of career, an artistic career. You don't want to start with debt. Also, considering the idea of a master's degree, master's degrees are great if you're wanting to teach at a college, but they're not necessary. The most important thing that you will need for your career to flourish is to have a great portfolio. And to have a great portfolio, you will need the classes that are going to give you the technical skills and the critiques. Those are really, really the combination of technical skills and fundamental classes with critiques is what really, really drives the art education, in my opinion. So, really important to get this idea of the art portfolio as sort of like the bedrock of your art career. So another strategy to afford college that I've used in the past with my students is to look for institutional support outside of the colleges that you're applying. There's usually a lot of institutions, foundations that offer scholarships to students. There's a few search engines on the internet that I'm going to be sharing with you guys in the description below. One of them is the New York Foundation for the Arts. This is a search engine that has been popular for many years, and usually you could find grants in the form of competitions. Usually Liquitex, for example, is a company that it has had a competition for many years where you submit a few pieces. Once again, the portfolio is so important. And with those pieces, those art pieces, you could secure yourself perhaps $5,000, $6,000. So you could go on for 2 years, 3 years, preparing the portfolio, applying for scholarships outside of the institution that you're applying to. And, this is probably the most important aspect because you're going to need to do this when you graduate from college. You're also going to need to apply for individual grants to sort of launch or propel your career in the initial years. This is so important. So that's the second strategy that I've developed for my students to be able to secure funding for their college costs. And the third strategy is essentially organizing your own exhibitions. I've had a lot of students create a lot of works, And by the end of the 4 years or 3 years or 2 years that they study with me, they asked me, I don't have any money outside of the scholarship that the college gave me to get to college to pay for my housing. How could I get more money? And one of the strategies that I have developed is to have students learn to set up their own exhibitions. You could do that online. You could do that, through your Instagram pages, your TikTok, all the other social media, and you could also reach out to your local community, art centers, community centers, any sort of space that you could prepare to have a pop-up gallery, which is this is important because that way people could converge to a space, to an actual common space, and you could be in touch with the client and announce to the world that you're doing a fundraising exhibition, that your desire is to get to art school, and that with any purchase of an artwork, they will be helping you afford the tuition costs for college. This is so important. I've done this with students in the past. It has been successful. So those are three ways that you could essentially afford the rising costs of college. And just to tell you a little bit more about how expensive art school is. I mean, I've had friends that have quite literally have gone into debt, and they have gone into severe debt, affording the student loans, paying off three, four, $600 a month. Some students have up to $900 a month in student loans. And if you don't have a plan early on, you could end up with a lot of debt. So that's something that you really want to avoid. You don't want to be producing work in your studio and running off to a job and then coming back and having three or four jobs. But that's going to put a damper on your progress as an artist. Essentially, you're going to have to manage a lot of things initially. The first 5 years out of art school is really important because that's your time to develop as an artist, to develop your style, to seek out galleries. So these strategies are going to help you just at least have a good sense of how the mechanism of art school works. I mean, a lot of you think that perhaps going to art school, I mean, it's very glamorous, it's wonderful. But when you put everything on paper and you start adding up all the costs of living, materials, rent, bills, plus the tuition costs, it adds up quite a bit. And most parents today just cannot afford these costs. So, but it's important to say that there's alternatives, and that's where a school like mine comes in. I mean, I have developed a program, a curriculum for the last 20 years to help students afford some of these costs. What I do is I do online classes, and I've had a lot of you write on my chats, on my Instagram, on my website. I've had a lot of you asking me about my online classes, and that's exactly what I do. I mean, and not just my school. There's a lot of schools all over the world that are helping students attain technical skills, which are so important to developing your portfolio. So one of my strategies, one of the things that I do is I have classes Saturdays. We meet every Saturday from 9 to 12. I also have a painting class from 1 to 4. And these are live online classes, meaning that I'm physically there critiquing in real time. And I also have pre-recorded classes. Those classes you could find on my Udemy server. Those classes are pre-recorded with a curriculum. I don't do any critiques. You just purchase a class and you have the material. But if you're looking for a one-on-one instruction and sort of art mentorship for a portfolio, then I recommend the portfolio classes. You could log on to Atelier School Online. You could send me a message there. Recently, we launched this new website, and it has a members area. You could just become a member, and if you become a member today, you could get a 15% off some of these classes. We have three courses right now, three online live courses. We have a Caravaggio course that's a class dedicated to historical materials, to the techniques of Caravaggio. We have a drawing fundamentals class, a basic drawing course that is focused on light and shade, perspective, scale, all the techniques that you would need to have success in painting. And then we have my portfolio classes. Those are designed to help you develop a portfolio for college admissions. I also help you choose a college and come up with the strategies. I write you a letter of recommendation. I also help you create a consensus of what the subject matter of your portfolio should be. So that's something that I've been doing for the last 20 years. It has been successful. A lot of students have gotten into great schools with amazing scholarship packages. I'm very proud of that. So there's a lot of options as well. I mean, there's other courses in my website that are pre-recorded. I have a Vermeer course. So I recently, for my Spanish speakers, I recently launched a materials or a surface preparation course that is solely focused on preparation of panels and linen canvases using traditional materials or historic materials. So I've worked very hard for the last 2.5 years to develop, transform my physical school into an online school to reach out students all over the world that are interested in pursuing art careers and also improving their drawing and painting skills. This is important. So I want to urge you, if you're interested in taking your career to the next level, to visit my website, become a member. There you could receive discounts. You will receive a newsletter that will tell you what we're doing. So, and for a lot of you that are coming by week after week, I want to thank you for your wonderful support. The channel keeps growing every day, and I really appreciate all the wonderful questions. I'm going to continue to come up with subject matter for the channel. We have a lot of students and a lot of artists visiting, and they have a lot of amazing questions that are so interesting, and it's just great to get in touch with the community. And again, I urge you to share your experiences, because your experiences will help other students or other viewers sort of get an idea of what we're talking about here in terms of art school. And if you have not logged on to my Instagram page, Luis Borrero Art, make sure to follow my Instagram page. I'm always posting things there as well. We have a Facebook page for Atelier School Online. And obviously, if you have not subscribed to my channel, make sure to subscribe to receive the future notifications for my live presentation. And I will be seeing you next week with another live presentation. Thank you very much. Have a great one. What techniques did Caravaggio employ during his early days in Rome as a struggling artist? What materials did he use to make his masterpiece, The Boy with the Basket of Fruit? In this semester-long course, I will explore Caravaggio's techniques in depth and guide students along a recreation of his masterpiece, A Boy with a Basket of Fruit. Students will have the opportunity to work with historical materials and learn how artists from Caravaggio's time used them to create marvelous effects. Using the latest scientific information as well as painting treatises from the 17th century, we will learn in depth about Caravaggio's process and his working methods. Join me this semester as we explore Caravaggio's early techniques.